This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the chairman and CEO of Mawson Resources, Mr. Michael Hudson. Mike, how are you?
Still in a chilly Toronto, but all good, thanks.
I was going to ask if you've warmed up at all. I know that you were busy and active at PDAC. Mawson had some news. You drilled 17 meters of 3 grams per ton gold at South Palokas in Finland. Before we go there, I'd love your take on PDAC. How was the traffic? What was the sentiment there?
I think the numbers showed that it was similar to the last few years. And I haven't gone back and checked them. It was something like 25,000 people. So it was a town, a small country town, or a big country town that moved into Toronto. That was just the mining industry. And by nature, it's a very busy conference, Gerardo. You know, I met everyone from ministers down to old colleagues and had lots of different properties thrown in front of my face. And there was all the parties and the brokers were all hosting events, and the bigger companies were, and it was a fantastic event to network, without a doubt. In terms of the market, you know, we're not really pumping as a market, and there's a lot of other sectors doing a lot better. So I think PDAC was okay. It was in terms of the mood, but you know, my take on PDAC is that it's the industry pitching it to itself. So of course it's going to be fairly buoyant, and you know, it just showed a lot of things. There's a lot of juniors out there showing their wares, and you know, with a lot less dollars going into the business. So fundamentally, something has to change.
Now, in regards to gold, we had the announcement this morning that Barrick and Newmont were forming a joint venture, basically consolidating the operations in Nevada. Do you think that will spark a rush of M&A that will eventually filter down to the juniors? I couldn't help but notice that Newcrest also struck a big deal worth nearly $1 billion Canadian. But I'd love to hear your take on whether you think that the M&A will trickle down to the juniors, and will the second half of 2019 be kinder than the second half of 2018?
And the first half
Correct.
of 2018. Listen, there's a lot of smarter people in the business who look at the business and analyze it a lot more than I do, Gerardo. But you asked for an opinion, so I'll give one. That I think these things do tend to trickle down, right? So there's the mid tiers are making money, and from a production point of view, the majors are making record profits. And now there's only one way for them to grow, and that's consolidation. And then, you know, it will inevitably trickle down to smaller assets. And then one big thing is that all these mergers don't create new mineralization in the ground. It is only exploration. So you know, I feel good that what we are is the engine room of this business, and eventually that will be recognized. Now it's been recognized already by the majors. You know, how much money did the gold majors put into junior explorers, including Mawson, over the last few years? You know, it was getting up towards $1 billion, and I don't know the number exactly, but it was fairly significant, right? Juniors and mid tiers. So they've seen the writing on the wall, you know, and I think it augurs well for market activity and the recognition that new resources are required.
Let's talk about new resources. Mawson drilled 17 meters of 3 grams per ton gold. Mawson has been the recipient of some of that major interest with your strategic partner in Finland there. Let's talk about the latest results. I got to believe that you're encouraged by the new conductors at both Palokas and South Palokas, which the news release was very good and clear about stating that those should be associated with further mineralization. How are things coming along on that front?
I'd say that it was a good, solid press release first up. I think it was basically the head grade of the resource, and we hit 17 meters as the highlight result there. 60 meters underneath the resource itself at South Palokas, which was at the very top of one of these conductors. So it was a first up test on one of these conductors at South Palokas. we extended mineralization successfully and got what we, what was a good grade, good thickness. And that conductor specifically at South Palokas, heads down 500 meters below and is only limited by the technique that we're using to measure this with the ground EM technique. So that was great, and we've got another one of those that has just emerged at Palokas, which is about 500 meters to the north. And these are 100 meter wide conductors that extend 500 meters below the resource areas, just as we see at another part of the prospect, which is a few kilometers away at Raya. So it's building up, and then we've seen more in areas where we haven't done much drilling at all at the Hut, which we will be drilling again at ideally very soon. And then we're doing more EM as we speak, where we've never done it before at a prospect called Rumiavi, which is once again over this large area. It's another few kilometres south of Palokas. So there's that importantly, that area had more boulders than any other part of the prospect. I think there was 60 boulders that averaged 149 grams in Rumiavi, and we've only done some earlier stage drilling there, haven't hit those boulders importantly, and we haven't done the EM. So the EM's looking good. The resource is being expanded, and it was two steps forward and one step back, I think, because we haven't found the extension at Raya yet, drilling along those conductors. We got some low grade gold, but we didn't find the higher grade hits that we're looking for. So there's still more work to be done at Raya to find that extension of mineralization. We just haven't found it there. But South Palokas a big tick, and those other conductors big ticks.
Excellent. Now, I couldn't help but notice that we didn't get cobalt numbers on this release, which, of course, cobalt is becoming a bigger part of the Mawson story, both for the value and for the strategic significance as it relates to permitting. I got to imagine that's likely due to the multi-element assays that you're waiting on from the lab. Would that be accurate?
That's precisely correct. They take 2 to 3 times as long. The multi-element assays, they have to get sent out of Finland. Basically, we get the gold done internally in Finland, and we get that back within a week or two, hole by hole, and it's about 3 to 4 weeks with pulps, the ground up rock being sent to Vancouver.
Perfect. Drilling status update. How are things coming along there?
We're going well. We announced something like 6,000 meters. Since then, that was a week ago. We've drilled more, so we're about halfway through the 15-kilometer drill program, and we've got the 4 rigs turning.
Well said, Mike. Thank you so much. I appreciate the overview on PDAC. I loved your take on the gold space, and fingers crossed that the second half of this year, and with any luck, the second quarter of this year is kinder to us than the past year or two.
Well, we're creating value even if it's not being recognized at this moment, Gerardo.
And you have the cash position to be able to continue to create that value while the market turns, which of course is critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks again, Mike.
Cheers, Gerardo.